Five of the nation's best recruits in the class of 2026 will see Indiana basketball over the next 4 weeks. This is the most crucial month for Indiana basketball recruiting ever.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Well, thank you so much for being here, and shout out to all of our everydayers here on Locked On Hoosiers. And look, week one of college football is here, and for the Big Ten, it's kind of awesome. Plus, Indiana football sells the naming rights to their field. Tell you why, I don't love it, but it's just where we are in the future of college athletics. But this might be, and probably not even might be, this is the most crucial 4 weeks, maybe ever, in the history of Indiana basketball recruiting. The future of this program revolves and relies on what happens over the next 4 weekends. Five of the nation's best high school recruits in the class of 2026 will be visiting Coach Darren DeVries and the Indiana Hoosiers starting this weekend over the next 4 weeks. August 29th, September 5th, September 12th, and September 19th. That's the next 4 weeks on the calendar, and Indiana has some big names coming to visit. And this is where, if you're Darren DeVries and the Hoosiers, you can really make a statement here. You can remind the big boy programs across the country who have been the big boy programs consistently over the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years that Indiana is on our way back. Because let's be honest, Indiana hasn't been that big boy program consistently over the last 25 years. And we're hoping that Darren DeVries is the answer to that. And it all starts with high school recruiting. We understand what NIL is. We understand what the transfer portal is and how both of those things can help your program, how both of those things you have to have and use to your advantage to try and make your team and your program better. But at the end of the day, in high school basketball or in college basketball over any other college sport, high school basketball recruiting and getting kids from the high school level is the number one priority. It is, because that's where the talent is. That's where the dudes are. That's where you build your program out of. And then not just recruiting those players, but the other R word is retaining those players, right? Those two things, if you can kind of pair those together, if you can master those in the year 2025 and beyond, my goodness, you will be a really good basketball program. Look at Dan Hurley at UConn. It's a perfect example. So that's what Darren DeVries is going to try and do while he's here at Indiana. And hopefully he's here for a long time. And he has already started that on the recruiting trail when he hit the ground running. Yeah, he had to bring a brand new team in through the transfer portal. We understand that. But he absolutely crushed it in terms of making relationships and reaching out to players, reaching out to schools, and really trying to rekindle some of these things and relationships that Mike Woodson in Indiana just didn't have, or they had, they just weren't good. And I think Darren DeVries has absolutely crushed it. And what you're going to see over the next 4 weeks will back that statement up. And it starts this weekend with a huge official visit from the number one point guard in the class of 2026. And his name is Talon Kenny. We've talked a ton about this guy. He's a top 15 player no matter where you look. 247 says he's the 12th ranked player in the country. He's the number one ranked point guard at 6'1", 185 pounds, playing out of Atlanta. He's originally from the state of Kentucky. Actually just took an official visit to Kansas this past weekend, and sounds like it went pretty well, but Louisville should still be in the lead here. But this is Indiana's opportunity, right? You have some film, you have some results from your trip to Puerto Rico. You sit him down and you say, look, man, You come in here, you're our guy. You're going to have the ball in your hands. You're going to have a green light. This will be your offense, one that runs and guns, ones that likes to shoot, ones that like to score, ones that like to put up 90 points a game. That's what Indiana's going to do. And that's what Taylon Kinney likes to do. So this is your first big opportunity. Sure, you've had other visitors. Latrell Allman has been here. Luigi Sowego was here. Some of these other guys were here. Sammy Jackson, right, took a visit before he committed to VCU. Prince Alexander Moody obviously visited, and now he's committed to you. Your lone commit so far in the class of 2026. But it begins this weekend, the most crucial month in recruiting for the Indiana Hoosiers in particular, for the future of this program. It starts right now with a top 15 player in Taylon Kinney. You back that up next weekend, the first weekend of September, on September 5th. You have the second-ranked shooting guard in the country in Junior County who will be stepping on campus for an official visit, ranked top 30 in the class, number 27, according to 247. He will be stepping on campus this time next weekend, okay? Followed by Anthony Thompson, a top 10 player in the class, one of the best forwards in all of high school basketball, considered the fourth best small forward in the country, but the 10th ranked player in the class, five-star no matter where you look at it. He will be on campus that following weekend on September 12th, alongside Davion Atkins, who's the 32nd ranked player in the country, one of those top three centers we've talked about. They'll be on a visit together, folks, Anthony Thompson and Davion Atkins. And some are starting to believe that they could go together. They could play at the same place, and that would be absolutely deadly if they decided to do that. That's the weekend of September 12th. And then the weekend of September 29th, September 19th, is Ethan Taylor, the 7-foot center, the number 1 ranked center in the country, who will be here on an official visit on September 19th. That's 4 weekends in a row with 5 top 35 players. It doesn't get bigger than this, folks. It doesn't get bigger than this. The opportunity that Darren DeVries has set up for himself and for this program, this wasn't given to him. This was not handed to him one morning when he woke up and said, "Hello, Mr. DeVries. Welcome to Bloomington. You have these official visits coming up at the end of August and through September. Good luck." No, he went out and got these. He went out and grinded for these. He went out and made sure that these kids didn't commit somewhere before seeing and talking to the Indiana Hoosiers. Now, does this mean they're going to commit to us? Nope, doesn't mean that at all. But the fact that these kids are coming here, you have an opportunity right now to buckle down and make some hay. You have an opportunity to really gain some ground in the recruiting landscape by landing some of these kids. And I told you of the 6 official visitors, because add to Ron Rippey in there as well, who will be here in mid-October on the 17th. I said of those 6 official visitors, you land at least 1 and possibly 2 in terms of a commitment. And I'm sticking by that. I'm sticking by that prediction because I think Indiana has the money. I think we have the resources, and I think we sell the future of what this program's going to be. And you are going to land some of these kids. And this is such a crucial time for the future of this program trying to get back to relevancy. And it starts this weekend with the number 1 point guard recruiting or visiting to the Indiana Hoosiers in Taylon Kinney. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll flip over to football because the Hoosiers have sold the naming rights to the field at Memorial Stadium. They're not the only ones. We'll talk about why it's significant. Why? Against my better judgment, I'll say it's a good thing. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they are worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives like you and like me. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is here for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, and you can link all your accounts in just minutes. See clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money. It can be overwhelming, right? Monarch is here to help, and you never have to touch a spreadsheet. It's all on technology, okay? You can use Monarch Money right now. Take the stress away. Quit worrying about it. Let it be simple and use Monarch Money, okay? Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, all right, you bet $5, and if it wins, FanDuel is going to give you $300 in bonus bets to use across their app, all right? So, look, you got $5. It's week 1 of college football. Maybe you think that Rutgers is going to beat Ohio on Thursday evening, right? Maybe you think it's going to happen. Maybe you think Cincinnati upsets Nebraska in their season opener out in Kansas City at Arrowhead. You put $5 on that, and if it wins, they're going to give you $300 in bonus bets to use across the app, all right? So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app right now by using or going to FanDuel.com and you can get started. That's FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet today. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And again, just a reminder to make sure you like the video if you're on YouTube and drop your thoughts down in the YouTube comments below. Your predictions on the 5 visitors over the next 4 weeks, and then the 6th visitor being Deron Rippey about a month after that as well. Can the Hoosiers land some of them? Are you confident, or are you like, nope, it ain't happening? Indiana's not there yet. Let me know down in the YouTube comments. I'm going to hear from you. Subscribe to our channel if you have not already. And for my audio listeners, you know the drill. Follow us over there and turn on those notifications so you never miss a new episode. Indiana football reported a couple of days ago that they have now sold the naming rights to the football field at Memorial Stadium. Not the stadium name, but now a naming rights deal for the field itself. They have made a $50 million investment, has Merchants Bank to buy the naming rights to the field at Memorial Stadium. And so now you will hear it referenced legally now as Merchants Bank Field at Memorial Stadium. And this is nothing new. This says the change goes in right now. You'll hear it this weekend at the stadium. That's what it will be referred to as on every print, everything said over PA or on radio or on TV, things like that. That's the official name now, is Merchants Field at Memorial Stadium. Merchants Bank makes a $50 million deal with Indiana, says it will span over the next 20 years. Okay. Also going to be on the football field. They'll have their name on it. Like it's happening. It's there, and you cannot miss it. And they're going to get a bunch of benefits from this. Will Merchants Bank, and their logos will be everywhere. And like I said, it will be mentioned and said and printed every time you talk about the Indiana Hoosiers football team playing at home. It will be Merchants Bank Field at Memorial Stadium. And on the surface, okay, on the surface of this, I hate it. I do. I hate it because 20 years ago, our parents or our grandparents would have absolutely lost their minds if this had happened in 2005 for a bank to come in and buy the naming rights of a football field. It just didn't happen back then. It wasn't ethical. It was frowned upon back then, right? Because that's not what college athletics was. It wasn't about that. The university and the athletic department and the programs weren't concerned and weren't willing to sell things like this to make an extra buck. Because again, back in that time, it was frowned upon. But look at where we are. Look at where we've come in the last 20 years. And it's really just been in the last 5 or 6. You have to do stuff like this. This day has been coming for a long time, and Indiana's just now getting started. Some schools have blown way past this, okay? You already have teams with naming rights on their stadiums. You're getting logo patches now. You're getting more logos on the field, logos on the video board. Like, you're getting all sorts of things sold. And these are called sponsorships. That's what these are. And athletic departments and universities have come around to realize, we were kind of strict on this for a long time, and we were above this. We were better than this. We didn't need to sell things like this to make money because we are IU and we can make our money the right way. Well, the world's too expensive for that now, and you have to do things like this. This is a $50 million investment by Merchants Bank, but ladies and gentlemen, this is a $50 profit for IU, for the university, for the athletics department, for the football team. This is a $50 million check that is being handed to IU and say, here you go. Use it however you want to. All you got to do is paint something on the field and print it and say it every time you talk about the stadium. That's it. That's all you got to do. And that money can now be allocated however you want in athletics, for facilities, for NIL, for revenue, for money, however you want to do it. It's $50 million that you didn't previously have that Indiana can now use to benefit and better the athletic department, and namely the football team. That's a big deal. And again, I hate it. I don't like where it's going because, man, the NFL started slowly doing it. The NBA started slowly doing it. NHL started to slowly do it. Man, MLB started to slowly do it, right, with some patches on their jerseys or on their sleeves. And man, people raised hell. People were all upset about it and mad about it, myself included. Now you don't even think about it, do you? Do you really notice what logo is on the NBA jersey? Milwaukee Bucks have a Harley Davidson logo on their jersey. The Oklahoma City have a Love's gas station logo on their jersey. Heck, the Kentucky football team plays at Kroger Field. It's everywhere. Just look around you. Sports have given in to this idea. NASCAR was built on it. NASCAR was built on this idea of, man, the cars ain't got to be pretty. Put as many logos on that sucker as we can. Let's make some money. We got to buy that $500,000 race car anyway. May as well have some logos and some companies help us do it. That's what's happening in college athletics. And so while I don't like the idea, you have to do it if you're IU. You have to do it if you're any of these colleges, especially the non-Ohio State Texases of the world that don't just have infinite money to spend and raise and have donated to them. Doing stuff like this will better your program and further your athletic department and honestly keep you afloat for some of these teams. And so while I don't like it at my core, I like the idea that Indiana has given into this idea, for a lack of better way to say that. What I don't want to see are certain things like Assembly Hall's naming rights be sold. I think there's a chance if, and I hate to say this, but if Indiana football keeps winning, there's a good chance you'll see Memorial Stadium's naming rights be sold. I would like to think that IU is better than to sell the naming rights to Simon Scott Assembly Hall. But if somebody's willing to pay a pretty penny, I'm talking like $1 billion or something, then you may have to have that meeting and listen to that and see what that negotiation looks like. But you're going to start seeing jersey patches. You're going to start seeing logos on the floor. You're going to start to see more banners inside. I mean, it is what it is. Schools have to make money. You have to pay the players. You have to pay coaches. Coaches are making more money now than they've ever made. Coordinators are making millions and millions of dollars now. You got to pay them somehow. And you can't just keep going to the people who went to your school and say, hey, I know you donated a lot last year, but we actually need just a little bit more. We need a little bit more, man. We need a point guard. And we need some more money from you. Or you can take $50 million from a naming rights deal on your football field that we won't even think about come week 2, and you could take some money and pay some players. That's where we are in college athletics. It's gross. I hate it, but it's the professional way of doing things, and that's what college athletics is professional athletics. So good for Indiana. You got it done. You got a $50 million check. And it's basically pure profit. You'll see their logo on the field, and literally we won't think about it again at all forever, but it's money that goes to Indiana athletics that they can use to their benefit. I'm just telling you, they ain't done. This is not the first and it won't be the last. Indiana and every school across the country will begin to do this thing right here. And it's just the way of the road. It is what it is. It's where college athletics are going. And until somebody can put a stop to it, which I don't see how you can, more and more things like this are going to happen. But at the end of the day, this is a good thing for Indiana football, selling the naming rights to Memorial Stadium's football field, which is now considered Merchants Bank Field at Memorial Stadium. All right, coming up here in our final segment of Locked On Hoosiers, week one is here. Week one, if you're watching or listening to this as it comes out, it starts tomorrow, and the Big Ten is all over the place represented for the first week of college football. We talk about that coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by our friends at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer on that. Plus, the part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's SHCollege5, all one big word, for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here. And hey, if you're looking for some more Indiana content, or if you'd like to read some more Indiana content, looking for some more things that way, I've started a new Substack that I'm putting out every single day for you. Just some more information kind of like this in an article form. So if you want to go check that out, I'll have the link for you dropped in the YouTube description. It'll also be on the audio podcast description as well. So be sure you go and check that out. It's free to subscribe and check that out. So I wanted to get that started for you. And we'll have that throughout the year, 5 days a week, all the time. And so be sure to check that out, especially right now, because college football season's here, man. Week one is upon us for not just the Indiana Hoosiers, but the Big Ten as a whole. And we're pretty well represented throughout several days of an expanded week one. Thursday night has 4 teams in action. Friday has 2. And then, of course, Saturday is all over the place. And not going to dive super deep into this just because we do have an episode coming out for you tomorrow talking a lot about this. Plus the Big Ten squad will have some conversations as well. And Friday is going to be a big preview of the Indiana team, the Indiana season, some Old Dominion talk as well. So looking forward to that on Friday. But man, I'm just so pumped for football to be back. And I'm really trying to decide what the Big Ten as a conference is going to be like this year, and then where Indiana kind of falls in that category. And so many people continue to say that Indiana's in that second tier of the Big Ten, possibly even the third tier of the Big Ten this season. A lot of consensus talk about Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, right? Whatever, write them off. I still think that Oregon could end up being a second-tier team, but more on that on tomorrow's episode. I think Indiana's a second-tier team in 2025. And when I think of second tier in the Big Ten, I think about, okay, are you competing for a conference title? In today's era, are you competing for a college football playoff berth where the Big Ten's going to get 3 or 4 teams in? And are you flirting with a top 20 ranking? I think if you have those things, you're considered the second tier of the Big Ten. And I think that's where Indiana will be. I think Indiana will be there. I think Illinois will be there. I think that, I don't know. That's where I get hung up. Michigan will probably be there. But then there's so many teams down below that I don't know. What's Michigan State going to be? What about UCLA? What about Iowa? What about Washington? What about all those teams that are out there that could be good? Wisconsin, I'm not high on them, but what if they do perform? What if they actually do show up and play some good football with the toughest schedule in the country? What about USC, right? What about the Trojans who have so much talent, but they're just so easy to make fun of that we don't actually give them a chance all that much? That's where I'm hung up on as we get into week one. And so that's kind of what I'm taking into this first week of Big Ten football is let's see what we got, right? Let's see what's going on. Some teams are playing good games. Texas, Ohio State, obviously, Cincinnati, Nebraska, UCLA, Utah, Washington with a sneaky good game against Colorado State. But look, I'm not going to look too much into USC and Missouri State. Sorry, I'm not. But I do want to see who looked good and who doesn't. And over the next several weeks, that's what we get to watch. That's what we get to talk about. Let's see who's the contenders and the pretenders in the first few weeks of the season, because I genuinely don't know. But as Indiana people, we need the conference to be good. We need Michigan State to be a good team. We need UCLA to be a good team. We don't need Maryland to be a bottom feeder and fire their head coach this year because we have to go on the road. We need Iowa to be good this year. Illinois will be. Obviously, Penn State, Oregon will be. I'd love to see Purdue be halfway decent. That way, when we beat them, we actually get credit for it rather than having to go and embarrass them on their home field on a Black Friday. Sorry, Nick. It's just kind of where I'm at. And from the Indiana perspective, our resume has to be nearly perfect for us to get back to the college football playoff. Not just with the wins, but how we do it and our strength of record as well. That's what I'm looking at in week one for the Big Ten this week. Really, really pumped for it again. 4 games Thursday, 2 games Friday, the rest of the games on Saturday. And folks, college football's here. If week 0 wasn't good enough for you, fine. Week 1 begins tomorrow, and I cannot wait. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here, truly making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. Your support means the world, and we're wrapping up August and running into September. All right, so we have 2 more great episodes plus a Big Ten squad show for you this week as well. And we are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans, for another episode. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.